It's midnight and you're tuning into Nightline with me, Raymond Go. The top stories. US and allies to impose additional sanctions on Russia. And no more quarantine for asymptomatic close contacts. Good morning. Prime Minister Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob said that 11 Malaysians in Ukraine are in the process of being evacuated amid the current uncertainties in the region. He revealed that 8 of them are based in Kiev, while the remaining 3 are outside the Ukrainian capital.
Jadi rakyat kita dalam keadaan selamat dan saya ingin maklumkan bahawa kepentingan rakyat kita menjadi perkara utama kepada Malaysia, ya. Jadi sebab itulah kita ambil tindakan segera.
The Prime Minister also said that the Malaysian embassy in Kiev is in contact with the citizens and providing shelter to those based in the capital city, while those outside are preparing to leave. There are 23 Malaysians registered with a mission. However, 12 have already returned home. It is learnt that the evacuation will require travel via road to Poland, as Ukraine had announced the closure of its airspace due to high risk to civil aviation. And the Malaysian embassy in Kiev had informed its counterpart in Warsaw to facilitate a border crossing. Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri was met by Malaysian media on Thursday at the end of his 2-day official visit to Cambodia, before departing and arriving in Thailand for another official visit as part of his familiarization tour of Southeast Asia. In the meantime, a virtual meeting between the United States and its group of 7 allies is underway as the group prepared to respond to what US President Joe Biden called an unprovoked and unjustified attack by Russian military forces on Ukraine. Biden and his G7 colleagues are scrambling to respond to a worst-case scenario by imposing harsh sanctions on Russia that may cause gasoline prices in the West to go up. Set to address the nation after the meeting, Biden is expected to unveil new measures that could cut off Russia from advanced technology, announce new restrictions on large financial institutions, and slap sanctions on additional members of the inner circle of Russian President Vladimir Putin. The G7 is comprised by the United States, Germany, Britain, France, Italy, Canada, and Japan. Meanwhile, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg also warned that the military alliance would defend every inch of its territory should Russia attack a member country. Speaking after chairing an emergency meeting of NATO envoys, Stoltenberg said the 30-nation security alliance will continue to beef up its defenses on its eastern flank near Ukraine and Russia. Earlier on Thursday, the Russian forces launched a military assault on neighboring Ukraine, crossing its borders and bombing targets near big cities. In a pre-dawn TV statement, Russian President Vladimir Putin said Russia did not plan to occupy Ukraine and demanded that its military lay down their arms. Moments later, attacks were reported on Ukrainian military targets. The move came after Moscow earlier recognized rebel-held territories in Luhansk and Donetsk and said they had asked for its help. Russia's military breached the border in a number of places in the north, south, and east, including from Belarus, a longtime Russian ally. There are reports of fighting in some parts of eastern Ukraine. About 10 civilians are believed to have been killed, including 6 in an airstrike in Brovary, near the capital Kiev. A Ukrainian presidential advisor said more than 40 soldiers had died and dozens more were wounded. Ukraine said it had killed 50 Russian troops and shot down 6 Russian aircraft, but this has not been verified. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky announced martial law across all of Ukraine, severed all diplomatic relations with Russia, and said weapons would be distributed to anyone who wanted them. In the meantime, oil prices jumped on Thursday, with Brent rising above $105 a barrel for the first time since 2014, after Russia's attack on Ukraine exacerbated concerns about disruptions to global energy supply. The attack is expected to have far-reaching implications for energy markets, given Russia's role as the world's second-largest producer of natural gas and one of the world's largest oil-producing nations. Brent crude rose $8.24 or 8.5% to $105.08 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate WTI crude jumped $7.78 or 8.5% to $99.88. Brent and WTI hit their highest since August and July 2014, respectively. Meanwhile, global stocks also plunged after the military attack on Ukraine, drawing condemnation from the West and making punishing sanctions all but certain. The pain spread beyond stocks as the Russian ruble briefly crashed about 10% to a record low of 90 against the US dollar. Investors will watch for the West's response to Russia's aggression, which is likely to include punishing sanctions. Asymptomatic close contacts of COVID-19 patients who have received all 3 vaccine doses will no longer have to undergo mandatory quarantine. Health Minister Khairi Jamaluddin said a new ruling will take effect on March 1st.
Kontak rapat kepada kes COVID-19 yang tidak bergejala dan berusia 18 tahun ke atas dan telah menerima dos penggalak tidak perlu menjalani perintah pemantauan dan pemerhatian HSO dengan syarat mereka perlu lakukan ujian RTK kendiri pada hari pertama dan hari ketiga dari tarikh akhir pendedahan kepada kes positif COVID-19.
At this media conference on Thursday, he said individuals who were close contacts, have no symptoms but had yet to receive their booster shots would still need to undergo quarantine for 5 days. Khairi said those who were identified as close contacts would receive the home assessment tool, HAT, where they needed to fill up a questionnaire. The minister added that the new procedures were made by studying scientific facts and new information. Close contacts who were symptomatic would have to undergo 5 days of home quarantine. At the media conference, the health minister was asked when the nation's borders will be reopening.
The Prime Minister will be announcing the date of the opening of the border. We already have a date, and we will leave it to the Prime Minister to announce.
On Tuesday, the National Recovery Council had said that it had previously proposed the reopening of the borders on March 1st. Apart from Malaysia, a number of countries in Southeast Asia, including Singapore, Thailand, Vietnam, and the Philippines, are reopening their borders to vaccinated travelers in an effort to revive their struggling tourism sector. Malaysia recorded 31,199 new COVID-19 infections on Wednesday, the highest single-day tally recorded since the pandemic struck. Health Director General Tan Sri Dr. Noor Hisham Abdullah said 99.38% of the total cases reported were in categories 1 and 2, while less than 1% were from categories 3 to 5. According to Tan Sri Dr. Noor Hisham, out of the 194 cases in categories 3 to 5, 92 involved those aged 60 and above. 91 cases have comorbidities, while 3 are pregnant women. He also said 45 of the total cases involved unvaccinated individuals, while 108 cases involved those who have completed their vaccination but have yet to receive their booster shot, and 41 individuals have been given the booster jab. He also pointed out that based on these numbers, a total of 153 cases in categories 3, 4 and 5 involved those who were either unvaccinated, received incomplete vaccination or did not take the booster shot. There are also 305 people in intensive care units as of Wednesday, with 191 patients requiring ventilators. 14 new clusters were also reported nationwide. Starting March 1st, parents and guardians can bring their children to get the vaccine under the National COVID-19 Immunization Program for Children, or PIC Kids, at selected vaccination centres, PPVs, on a walk-in basis. Deputy Health Minister Dr. Noor Azmi Ghazali said the state health departments will issue the list of PPVs through their respective websites in the near future. In a statement on Thursday, Dr. Noor Azmi said parents and guardians are advised to check the list of PPVs implementing walk-in vaccination and take the opportunity to vaccinate their children during the school holidays. At the same time, the Health Ministry will also activate the appointment booking system in the MySejahtera application in stages beginning Thursday to enable parents and guardians to receive the vaccination appointments starting March 7th. Dr. Noor Azmi, who is also COVID-19 Immunization Task Force for Children, CITFC chairman, added that only the Comirnaty vaccine would be used for PIC Kids, which began on February 3rd. Children will also be given 2 doses of the vaccine within an 8-week interval to ensure optimum protection against the virus. He also said the current average vaccination rate was around 50,000 doses a day, and if the capacity was increased to 60,000 doses a day, the ministry's target to give 1 dose of the vaccine to 70% of children in the country could be achieved by the end of March. Increasing palm oil exports to Cambodia and import of rice to Malaysia are seen as among the ways to increase bilateral trade between both countries. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob said that bilateral trade between Malaysia and Cambodia is still low and needs to be further enhanced in line with the potential of both countries.
Saya berharap agar perdagangan kita dalam produk ini dapat dipertingkatkan lagi. Dari segi pelaburan, saya suka mendengar bahawa aktiviti dan sumbangan para pelabur dari Malaysia di sini adalah amat menggalakkan, di mana ianya telah membuka banyak peluang pekerjaan dan ekonomi yang menyumbang kepada perkembangan ekonomi di Kamboja.
Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri said this to reporters in a joint press conference with his Cambodian counterpart, Samdech Teko Hun Sen, at the Peace Palace in Phnom Penh on Thursday. The Prime Minister added both countries are also looking at expanding collaboration in the fields of information and communications technology, ICT, fintech, cybersecurity, small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, and business startups. He also said Malaysia will continue to assist Cambodia to develop the halal ecosystem in the country. Both leaders also discussed the reciprocal recognition of COVID-19 vaccination certificates to facilitate travel and other initiatives that can contribute to COVID-19 post-pandemic recovery. Total Cambodia-Malaysia trade surpassed $500 million in 2021, an increase of 13.14% compared to the previous year. Earlier, Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri attended an official welcoming ceremony at the Peace Palace, which is also the office of the Cambodian Prime Minister. Cambodia is the 4th country visited by Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri since he was sworn in as the 9th Prime Minister on August 21st last year. Fire breaks out at a synthetic rubber plant in Johor after an explosion. The details when Nightline returns. Welcome back to Nightline. Lembaga Tabung Haji TH has declared a 3.1% profit after zakat involving 2.46 billion ringgit for the 2021 financial year. Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Religious Affairs, Dato' Idris Ahmad, said the distribution of profit would benefit about 8.4 million TH depositors, with 219 million ringgit more profit compared to 2.24 billion ringgit for the previous financial year.
Kadar pulangan tahun 2021 adalah berpatutan setelah mengambil kira keadaan persekitaran perniagaan dan pasaran sukuk dan saham yang mencabar pada tahun lepas. Kedudukan keuangan tabung haji terus kekal kukuh dengan aset berjumlah 88.73 bilion, melebihi liability yang berjumlah 85.51 bilion pada 31 Disember 2021.
Speaking at the 2021 TH Profit Declaration at Menara Tabung Haji on Thursday, Dato' Idris said the return also took into consideration 107 million ringgit in zakat, which was paid on behalf of depositors. He added the savings guaranteed by the government also exceeded 83.33 billion ringgit, the highest in the fund's 59-year history. TH total revenue also increased 2.9% to 3.24 billion ringgit, while total operating costs decreased by 4% as a result of prudent financial management measures. An explosion caused a fire to break out at a synthetic rubber plant in Pasir Gudang, Johor on Thursday afternoon. The blast, which occurred at the Tanjung Langsat Industrial Complex at about 5:15 p.m., resulted in a huge fireball that could be seen all the way from Singapore. In a statement, Sri Alam Police Chief Superintendent Muhammad Suhaimi Ishak said the incident was due to an explosion involving two spherical tanks containing cement rubber at the premises. The blaze was brought under control and extinguished at about 11 p.m. by firefighters who were assisted by the plant's firefighting unit. Fortunately, no lives were lost. However, two workers were injured. One sustained burns on his hand, while another broke his leg from a fall while trying to escape. Both victims were taken to Penawa Hospital for treatment. Witnesses, including those across the Johor Straits, said they saw a huge fireball which formed a dark mushroom cloud as it rose skywards. The cause of the incident and amount of losses are still being investigated. Local tourism players are hopeful that the tourism industry will recover despite Malaysia remaining cautious following a surge of COVID-19 cases due to the Omicron variant. Tourism, Arts and Culture Minister Dato' Sri Nancy Shukri said the ministry would continue to formulate the best methods to revive the industry while supporting efforts carried out by the country in managing the pandemic.
Pemain-pemain industri, mereka pun dah bingung, sekejap buka sekejap tutup kan. Tapi insyaAllah kita akan menuju ke arah itu tidak lama lagi. Tunggu Yang Amat Berhormat Perdana Menteri mengumumkan bila kita nak membuka border semua tu. Bila buka border, semuanya akan menjadi biasa. Jadi sabarlah menantilah.
Dato' Sri Nancy said this to reporters after officiating the National Craft Day 2022 program at Kuala Lumpur Craft Complex on Thursday. She added a move to impose tighter standard operating procedures (SOP) for tourism programs, including the requirement for COVID-19 screening, is to ensure that the industry is not affected by the increase in daily cases at this time. She also said the ministry had engaged closely with the National Security Council, NSC, and Health Ministry in drafting the SOP in finding the best methods for the industry to move forward safely. After the short break, Canadian PM removes emergency powers after blockades end. Don't go away. The Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced the country is ending emergency powers invoked 9 days ago, as the situation is no longer an emergency and existing laws and bylaws are sufficient to keep people safe.
We've held updates and briefs with ministers and officials every day, often multiple times a day. And today, after careful consideration, we're ready to confirm that the situation is no longer an emergency. Therefore, the federal government will be ending the use of the Emergencies Act.
According to Trudeau, the emergency measures would formally be revoked in the coming hours when Canada's Governor-General signs the proclamation. Previously, the special measures were used to tackle weeks-long protests that shut some border crossings and paralyzed Ottawa since late January. The powers included the ability to freeze the accounts of those suspected of supporting the blockades without obtaining a court order. The protests, which started as an opposition to a cross-border COVID-19 vaccine mandate for truck drivers, turned into a broader demonstration against Trudeau's minority Liberal government. In the meantime, Hong Kong's government on Thursday invoked emergency powers to allow doctors and nurses from the Chinese mainland to practice in the financial hub as it struggles to tackle a spiraling coronavirus outbreak. In a statement released by the government, Hong Kong is now facing a very dire epidemic situation, which continues to deteriorate rapidly, and the outbreak is expected to continue to escalate exponentially. The move came after Chinese President Xi Jinping last week ordered Hong Kong to take any necessary means to bring the outbreak under control, signaling Hong Kong would not be allowed to move towards living with the virus like much of the rest of the world, after reporting nearly 50,000 cases over the past 14 days. Chinese mainland medics are not currently allowed to operate in Hong Kong without passing local exams and licensing regulations. Thailand and Laos have agreed to reopen their border checkpoints soon, as both countries continue their push to fully reopen their borders in an effort to restore their battered economies. According to officials, the decision was made after Lao ambassador to Thailand, Seng Sukhativong, paid a courtesy call on Prime Minister and Defence Minister General Prayut Chan-o-cha. Both countries agreed on key issues, including a plan to reopen cross-border checkpoints to increase the value of border trade and boost economic recovery. In order to attract more Thai investors to use the newly launched Laos-China railway services, General Prayut has called on Vientiane to consider streamlining its customs process and revise the fees collected at the Tanah Leng Dry Port and Vientiane Logistics Park. Besides that, he also asked that the Lao government consider developing the R12 route connecting the borders of Thailand, Laos and Vietnam, which would benefit local communities. sports now. Daniil Medvedev took another step toward top spot in the ATP rankings with a dominant 6-1, 6-2 second-round victory over Pablo Andujar in the Mexican Open. The 26-year-old Medvedev, who can replace Novak Djokovic atop the rankings if he wins the title in Acapulco, will play either Taylor Fritz or Yoshihito Nishioka in the quarterfinals. He needed just over an hour to beat Andujar. The morning after defending champion Alexander Zverev was kicked out of the Mexican Open for violently smashing his racket on the umpire's chair moments after losing a doubles match. In another match, Rafael Nadal has extended his unbeaten run to a dozen matches this year after beating Stefan Kozlov 6-love, 6-3 to advance to the Mexican Open quarterfinals. This is the 35-year-old Spaniard's best career start on the ATP Tour. Nadal won a record 21st Grand Slam title after capturing the Australian Open in Melbourne last month. As we wrap up Nightline this time around, let's take a look at the visuals inside the Museum of the Future in Dubai, which features design and technology innovations taking visitors on a journey 50 years from now. With that, I'm Raymond Go. Thank you for joining us and stay safe, Malaysia.